What up, douchebag?
Hey, Tom.
Alright, what's wrong with you?
I don't know, man. Something's wrong with my son. He's acting really weird. Yeah, look at this.
Here it is. Why'd you close the door? Wesley?
Yeah, that is a little weird. Where would a kid his age even get a knife?
Well, that's not exactly the point, now is it, Tom? Look, you want to explain?
Yeah, I actually don't really care, but you do you.
I'm not going to explain like this. I got to explain it, I got to do it right if I'm going to explain these to you.
What you're looking at is me still not caring.
Alright, let's do it. Ah, yes. Kids going back to school, pumpkin spice lattes in every preteen's hydro flask.
Shut up! Oh my god, I don't care!
It was early September, and already costume talk and spooky stories had already started circulating. Halloween was not only in the air, but dripping from social media. Some stories were much crazier than others, but the ones that really hit home for me were because I'm a father. I'm talking about ones that involved adoption. I can't imagine anything scarier than opening your house entirely to someone you don't know, let alone opening yourself to them. I mean, if you adopt a kid, you have to let them in the fridge. If you're an adult, you know how scary that is. The leftovers will never be there when you get home.
I hope you guys are insured.
But being able to open yourself is more important. A child needs to be able to feel that they can trust you and they can talk to you about anything. And you as the adult need to show them that they can have that trust in you. It's okay to trust you. Come here, buddy. Look. This is gonna be a little weird, alright? But as your father, I have to be honest with you. I have to be open with you. Son, your father once lay with a man for just a little bit of cocaine. Okay, yeah, you don't have to be that open exactly, but especially with a child who may have had bad experiences in previous homes or in an orphanage, they really need to learn to trust a new person. If they've had bad experiences, it's gonna be harder for them to trust, and they need to have that trust validated. So you're gonna have to really work to give them that. They need to feel like they belong. They need to feel accepted. Now imagine you did put that work in. You let them in, you try and get close to them, and then the sweet little darling one started doing bad things, naughty things that'll make you go, oh. Like wasting toilet paper, leaving socks in the living room, or trying to jerk off your husband and then stabbing him in the chest repeatedly when he rejects her advances. Yeah, especially that last one, that's a really bad sign. Imagine putting that much work and effort into being so loving, caring, and open with a new child that you've adopted from a hard place, really hoping to make them really feel like they're part of your family. They're one of you. They're your son or daughter. And then having them turn around and try and burn your son alive and then smother him with a pillow. There are actually quite a few movies where the plot involves an adult pretending to be a child to get away with doing naughty things. Now, as I'm going to show you in a second, if you see what the movies are like, it seems hard to believe that there's anything anywhere close to it being real. But shockingly, they're not that far off from events that have actually happened. Take, for example, Little Man. It's a comedic movie from the Wayans brothers about a thief that has to find the diamond he hid in a woman's purse, and he can only do that by pretending to be a toddler. I know it doesn't sound like it makes much sense, but it's a comedy from the Wayans. It's goofy and weird on purpose. That's how they do things.
Just sworn he just stuck his tongue in my mouth.
And at a very basic level, it has a lot in common with the other movie I want to mention, Orphan. Orphan is a movie about a couple that lost a child in the womb, leading the mother to become an alcoholic with PTSD. And over the years, she tries to prove she isn't crazy and that she has her alcoholism under control. So basically, they had a stillborn baby that broke the mother, and they decided to adopt. At the orphanage, they met a young girl named Esther. However, after a very short time, strange things started happening. The mother just knows it's somehow connected to Esther, but can't quite figure it out or even prove anything. A nun from the orphanage comes up to check on things and ends up with a hammer in the head. Her son, threatened with a knife, burned alive, and suffocated. Her daughter is constantly used and abused by Esther, and all the while, Esther plays the innocent child to make her adoptive mother seem insane. Until she thought she had won, got the mother out of the house, and tried to seduce the father, who rejects her. This is when the mother gets the news that she isn't an orphan at all, but a 34-year-old woman with severe mental issues. So in summary, kind of like the opposite of stepdaddy porn. Now, while these may be very interesting movie premises, what really interests me is the real life stories that actually mirror some of these events, like the Barnett family situation. In September of this year, 2019, a story started making the rounds through a variety of news sites reporting on a family with a strange situation that had been unfolding for about a decade at this point. The Barnett family story follows the story of Orphan very closely. Personally, I think it's a little bit too closely. Matter of fact, you ever go to your family reunion, you see those cousins that are just a little too close? You know, kissing cousins? Yeah, Yeah, these stories are kissing cousins. What makes it even more suspicious is that the Barnett family story starts about 1 year after Orphan premiered in theaters. But what makes it even crazier than that is supposedly there's actual medical documents that have been submitted to courts that are involved in this situation that seem to prove the story is accurate the way they say it happened. According to the now divorced Miss Barnett, the family decided to adopt after having serious medical complications in her previous pregnancies, leaving her unable to continue having children. Doesn't that sound shockingly familiar? They knew the girl they adopted had a number of medical conditions, including things like a bone condition, leading her to be very short and having vision and skeletal issues. But for some reason, this was treated like an emergency adoption, and they rushed through the process. All they found out about the child was her Ukrainian birth certificate said her birth date was September 4th, 2003. She was 6 years old, and her previous adoptive parents gave her up suddenly, and the reasons were not disclosed. Immediately things get weird. Like, not a little bit weird either. I'm talking Charlie Sheen opening a daycare weird.
I'm just finally gonna completely embrace it, wrap both arms around it, and love it violently, and defend it violently through violent hatred.
According to Miss Barnett, they found out in the parking lot when leaving the adoption center that she couldn't walk, and hadn't been told this or seen it listed on paper at any point prior to this. Now personally, I would have had a million questions for this place after that. That's a major oversight. How do you miss that? But I guess they were just, mentally and emotionally kind of drained from the whole events of the day and decided to just go home and just move on with their lives. So over the next few days, they took her to all these fun activities at theme parks and things like that, and then they decided to have a beach day. Now, at the time of adopting this young girl, they already had 2 kids. So after unloading the car and getting everybody to the beach and getting everything set up, they needed a break. They needed to sit down. The Barnetts were tired, but she wanted them to carry her to the water. When they said they needed a minute, she got up and ran to the water with no hesitation. Now, keeping in mind that she's 6 years old, things got even weirder when they found out, when bathing her, that she had full-grown pubic hair, as well as shortly thereafter finding out she was also having periods. I don't know, call me crazy, but it seems a little weird to me that it took them a week to bathe this 6-year-old girl, or that they had previously bathed her and not noticed she had full pubic hair. I mean, did they somehow bathe her and not see her naked, or did they just not really bathe her in the first couple weeks they had her? Were they just in the bathroom with a blindfold, just wiping things down and hoping they got her clean enough, or did they just not bathe her for the first week or 2? Mother Barnett claims that she had doctors perform bone density tests to determine the age of the girl, and the result was 14 or older. So they changed up her wardrobe and stuff to be more age appropriate, and then she started behaving erratically, attacking people, smearing bodily fluids on the walls, and making death threats. Now, this whole part is a little bit weird to me because they use bone density as the test result that supposedly is supposed to prove her age, but at the same time she's got a medical condition that alters her bone density and bone growth. So those tests seem like to be really hard to validate. But either way, the courts and the Daily Mail both received information, the files and test results, and it seems to be legitimate. Even though they claim to and seem to have proof that they took all the right measures, they have now been arrested for abandoning a child and fleeing the country to Canada, which is even weirder since no one knew where the kid was. So they were charged with abandoning a girl with no idea where the girl was or any way to disprove their charges. Now, I assume you wonder why they were accused of abandoning her, and apparently it's because at some point in time she was ruled in court to have been an adult. They gave her an apartment, they paid the rent, and I think they even sent her money for food and stuff every once in a while. At the time the articles were being written about their arrest for abandonment, no one even knew where the girl was to verify anything. It turns out she's living with a new family, and they've adopted her, and refuse to believe there is any truth to the Barnett story. So in summary, it's entirely possible that the parent's story is true, but we just don't know. The doctors and the courts can't seem to come to consensus as there's evidence to back up their claims. Now, as of recording this, Halloween just passed and there's still not really any real resolution here. I can't find any resolution online. Now, as far as the information I could find goes, it sounds like the most recent turn of events was that they did find the birth mother who confirms the girl is only a teenager. But this whole story just reads like an M. Night Shyamalan story. It's almost like M. Night Shyamalan decided to pull an Andy Kaufman, like some kind of insane work of fiction that's being played out for everyone to see in real life. Stop. Okay, wait a minute. Hold up. Let me update you a little bit here. As I said, this was recorded the night after Halloween. It's now November 7th, and Dr. Phil just recently announced that he's going to have Natalia on his show today. Given these are the only videos that I know of that will actually have Natalia speaking her mind about the situation and about her experiences, I will be linking to all of of the videos that I find on Dr. Phil's channel in the description below, just for research purposes, and if anybody needs any other materials that I've referenced in this video, they're also going to be linked in the description. Before I play the clip, I gotta say, it's really funny, though, that the husband and wife are sitting so far away from each other. Why don't you just slide over, get comfy, just chill out, just relax.
What's your sense, I mean, on the whole age question? She says she's 16, the Barnett say she's an adult, and it's really hard to figure that out.
It is, George, and I don't think she knows. Now think about this. When you're a child, particularly coming from a group home in a foreign country where it's not like here, they didn't celebrate every one of her birthdays if she's in this group home. I don't think she knows how old she is. I think she knows the difference between 8 and 20, but I don't think she knows whether she was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Now, just so we're clear, this interview doesn't actually resolve anything necessarily, because none of this is really evidence. It's rather more just discussion and seemingly the victim's chance to give their side of the experience. Now, I wonder though, as creepy as this situation is, what if I told you there's a situation that's even creepier and darker, that may have even been the influence for the Orphan movie itself? This is by far the most disturbing story I came across when I was doing research for this video. Now, if you are the kind of person who may find yourself in a click hole after this video, clicking through links and reading articles and looking up images, really consider turning this video off, because I legitimately have been a little bit disturbed by what I've read and what I've seen regarding this story. It's so horrifically messed up that emotionally, if you're a parent especially, it may actually mess with you a little bit, as it has me. Now, for the most part, I am going to try and give just a very basic overview of the story, but knowing how much it messed with me and how much it hurt me seeing some of these things and reading some of these articles, I really felt it was important to give people that out just in case, because it really messed with me and it might mess with you too. Now, the story starts in 2007 with a couple who bought a baby monitor for obvious reasons with a baby on the way. Unfortunately, after setting up the camera and turning on the monitor, they were horrified to see a video feed of not themselves or the babies in a room, but instead a naked boy cut and bruised and gagged lying in a cage. There are still pictures of the monitor at this time still easily available and searchable on Google. While they aren't explicit in any way, knowing what I've read and having a son that this boy reminds me of, it genuinely hurts to see these, and I will not be linking to them or showing them on screen. The boy's mother and father had divorced some time ago at this point, and I assume this is why there was no red flag at the disappearance of the child, assuming that he may have been with the father anyway. Now, when the police arrived, reportedly they found a girl sitting by the cages crying and seemingly unharmed. The boys, however, were sent to a medical treatment center, while the girl was sent to a children's home for safekeeping while the mother was arrested. At some point, the girl, however, disappeared from the home before the truth had been discovered that the girl wasn't in fact a child at all, but a 30-year-old daughter of a cult branch leader who had apparently been the one influencing the mother to allow herself and other cult members to abuse her children. Many of the blogs and less verifiable sites talk about a doctor that was influencing the mother as well to do unspeakable things to the boys, but also essentially serve Barbara like some sort of servant. The camera was reportedly set up by the mother so that she could watch the torture being done to the boys while she was off doing whatever a psychotic mother does when not mothering. So as I said, this girl fled the home that she was placed in and is now on the run. She was found eventually pretending to be a boy in a different country where she was once again hiding as a child, enrolled in school. Now, she did slip away before they could catch her at the school, but she was eventually captured and brought back to face the Chechen music. Nope, wait, sorry, wrong republic. The images and stories I've been exposed to learning about this really left an impact on me. Orphan may be a fun and interesting movie, but this was real. And as a father, it's really messed with me a bit. Now, for the sake of clarity, there are a million articles from bloggers and such with conflicting information, which is why I use these fairly consistent and at least semi-trustworthy sources linked in the description. The most consistent information I've seen for the amount of time the people involved would need to serve is astoundingly short. The mother reportedly only had to serve 9 years. Barbara didn't even serve time for abuse, instead for the minor things like she did, like faking her identity. Now, some articles reported that the boy suffered from basic and general abuse in this situation. And I know that sounds dismissive of regular abuse, but there's other articles that claim that cannibalism and the most unspeakable things, I think you can assume the lengths I'm talking about here, we're all involved in this. Horrible, horrible things. Let's just say no level of abuse seems to have been off limits if some of these articles are to be believed. Now, I did some research to try and find out how these boys are now, and I was only able to find a couple blogs that mentioned that they had heard that the boys were actually living very well-adjusted lives, while I also found Facebook pages that were really kind of disturbing, like fan fiction, playing the role of the boys growing up and becoming serial killers. There's no evidence I can find to verify any of that. I mean, it's only been like 9 years, so I don't think they would have been old enough to be at that point anyway. It seems like it was legitimately fan fiction, but it's really, really dark and messed up. Now, what's crazy to me is when I first read these articles, I thought they took place in like the 70s, and these were historical articles I was reading online. Turns out, no. These events were in 2007, just barely over a decade ago. I mean, the mother should have been released from prison, I believe, 2 years ago as of right now. Now, I did look for articles about her release, and I would assume that the reason I didn't find any is because they're probably in Czech and weren't translated to English, given that, you know, it's many years ago now, so it's just not interesting enough a story anymore. We have our own Casey Anthony now, and even that story's old. I know this is a bit late for Halloween, so let's instead be thankful we're not in this situation. This story has really put things in perspective for me. It's reminded me how I got to where I am today. Not that I'm somewhere fantastic. I'm here though. I'm here, and things could be much, much worse than they are. Things can always be worse for you than they are currently. And that goes for my patrons as well, Pantsless Gamers and Hobo Viking. Thank you so much, guys. Now, if you made it this far into the video, please drop an orphan in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time.